of an S-shaped curve, which is a growth curve that is seen in nature and is showing up in our human population growth curve. We've had a long period of rapid acceleration and really explosion of human population. And just within the last 25 or 30 years, we're seeing a slowing of population growth. And if UN projections are correct, we'll see a slowing and reaching an equilibrium by the end of the century at around 10 to 12 billion people. So that's quite a change. And he distinguished two eras, one he called Epoch A and one he called Epoch B. Epoch A is the period we're just leaving, which, as you described, was a time of acquisition, of growth, explosive growth, not paying attention to limits on resources or limits on waste, and also dominated by independence, competition, and imbalance in the distribution of wealth. And what we're seeing is a transition to a time when growth is slowing. And in that period of time, a whole different set of values and a whole different set of strategies are needed for human survival. More integrative thinking, more cooperation, more holistic approach. And we're right at the transition point between those two different ways of looking at the world. Slowing. And I think that was one of the hallmarks of the book and my father's thinking was everybody was looking at the population exploding and just saying, what are we going to do? Yeah. And he said, look, it can't keep expanding. It's either going to collapse or it's going to bend and reach an equilibrium. And let's look at that scenario. And in fact, that's what's being borne out. That's what's being borne out. But the really fascinating thing to me about the population situation is the things that cause people to have smaller families, and therefore lower fertility and slow population growth are better socioeconomic conditions, yeah. Better health, lowered infant mortality, and education and status of women. And in places where we advance those values, then population growth slows more quickly. So it's a really double win situation. If we don't look at trying to constrain other populations, but we look at trying to improve conditions in other parts of the world where population growth is still high, that's going to be our most efficient and most ethical way of slowing population growth as soon as possible. A society where, certainly with zero carbon emissions, we'd be looking at government and social structures that are based around human welfare and not around economic growth. And we would be looking at novel kinds of economic systems and political systems. It's very much in your mission statement of your organization, but of working cooperatively across the planet in terms of the relationship with nature. And in terms of the relationship with nature, basically figuring out the conditions to placing value on the well-being and the condition of the planet and living within the planetary resources. It's a tremendously exciting time to be alive. We are faced with a set of challenges that are unique in our history and our evolution. And, I think that as discouraging as things may be, I think that it's almost exhilarating. And if people can look at it in that context, then I think that there's hope for the future.